Whatever way you want to look at it with Usyk, every one of his mandatories, he's got to fight one of our guys.
Boxing has surpassed MMA again. I think boxing will frustrate the life out of Dana White, if I'm honest. Conor's training like a man possessed, because the way he's looking, like compared to Chris Eubank Jr, he's a completely different fighter.
I'd like to see Conor knocking the out.
Does this union on DAZN make Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua more likely to happen?
Will be the fastest conversation we've ever had.
Try and get down here, as the actress said to the vicar.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hurry up then.
So
I can't hold this forever.
And just both of you, eyes to me, straight down the neck.
Frank, I guess we'll start with you. Obviously, we're here to officially or formally discuss you joining DAZN. I guess first and foremost, you must be very excited to get started. New chapter for yourself, a new chapter for Queensberry.
I am. It's we thought long and hard about it, and we were absolutely convinced it was the right move to make. I think that the fact that there are other promoters like Matchroom, Oscar and other guys on there, and I think it makes it very, very competitive. And it'll also make it easier for us to make fights together. Our fighters fighting other promoters' fighters and vice versa. And I'm looking forward, as you say, to the next chapter.
Eddie, Frank just mentioned there about kind of more cross-promotional fights. Obviously, you had the 5v5 last year, probably less said about that, the better. I know that there's been talks and rumours about another formal 5 versus 5, but boxing fans, myself included, looking at this union or Frank coming over to DAZN is hopefully a sign that we're going to get more of those Matchroom versus Queensberry fights in isolation. Do you think that's something we can expect?
Yeah, I think the 5v5, the rematch is inevitable. Hopefully, better result this time. But I think the concept was brilliant. I think it's fair to say now that if we aren't making in-house fights, the first option is to make Matchroom v Queensberry fights. So, if we're putting a show together, who is that main event for us and who is the co-main event? And who has Frank got that we could match up against those and vice versa?
Get round there.
How's the back, Frank?
Terrible now. It was all right to have done this. I feel like Quasimodo.
You mentioned there, and just Eddie kind of hinted towards it, you're both very competitive guys. I remember a few years ago when you were very competitive with each other.
You don't have to, that's not changed. I mean, whatever we do, we're sitting there talking, we're working on this 5v5, which looks like 10v10 when we put it all down on paper. And we're putting our fighters in to win these fights, not to, just to make up the numbers. We want to win every one of these fights.
Your first show on DAZN, April the 5th. How important was it to launch with a big heavyweight show to start with?
It was very important. It's the blue ribbon division. It's what it is. I mean, when I started out, the British heavyweights didn't win world titles. They fought very valiantly and came second. And it's changed over the years. I mean, the strength, take Usyk out of the picture, which is very difficult, I know, but you take him out of the picture and the strength is in the UK. You look at AJ and what he's achieved, you look at what Tyson's achieved. Whatever way you want to look at it with Usyk, who is number one, Tyson's retired, he's number one, whatever way you look at it, every one of his mandatories, he's got to fight one of our guys. So it's brilliant, it's fantastic. So we've got to be engrossed in that.
Thinking about your next move.
Okay.
Riyadh season's been an enormous success for boxing over the last 18 months or so. One of the things, boxing fans love a discernible voice or a discerning voice out there has been kind of the, perception of British boxing shows in that period of time. I think British boxing fans look at this move as a very positive step for British boxing. Do you feel that we need to be looking, we the collective, you guys, we need to be looking to improve the kind of the standard of British boxing shows?
Nick Ball fight here twice. Two magnificent performances in Riyadh. And he's come back here twice and we've built a market in Liverpool with him. 2 great performances. Not just him. I look at the show last year, it was a Riyadh season show, but at Wembley. Look at that. Burster, place was sold out. Who would have thought the 2 British promoters are probably the strongest promoters in the world now? Which I think is a fact. Boxing's not broken, certainly in the UK, it's thriving in the UK.
One of the things that Frank's just said there, Eddie, is boxing is not broken, which obviously rings in my head to the TKO announcement recently with Dana White kind of put his chest out, boxing is broken, yada, yada, yada. What did you make of the whole kind of TKO announcement? It seemed from my obviously removed position to be quite, Turkey has his own way of doing things by all accounts, but quite a I guess, aggressive move, it seemed, from the outside.
I think you have to be aggressive. I mean, when you're making an announcement, you know, you're a stock listed company, it's got to be a powerful one, and it's got to be with big ambition. I don't think we know enough about the structure of the league, the pay of the league, the format. I know a lot of fighters that have been recruited or been invited to the league, and it seems to be a lower level than I think the anticipation of it is, you know, either a prospect or a kind of fringe guy. And I think that comes down to the control that TKO will want about how they run the league and the narrative that it will be. And it's only speculation at this point, but I think that Dana will want, you know, a similar model to the UFC, which is built around control, really, of the talent. And I think might be a great opportunity for that talent. But as we know, it's not easy dealing with fighters, especially at the top end. You're dealing with lawyers and advisors and a lot of people that actually don't understand the business. I think boxing will frustrate the life out of Dana White, if I'm honest, because it's unbelievably frustrating, especially when you come from a world where everyone does almost, you know, not as they're told, but as they sign up to do. So yeah, but look, I think the fact that Dana's in boxing is amazing, brilliant for the sport, and just shows you where boxing's at. Because if boxing was dead, or boxing was really that badly broken, do you think TKO would want to be in the space? The answer is no. They see the potential, they see the noise, and for me right now, boxing has surpassed MMA again. I know it's all about peaks and troughs, but right now I think boxing's red hot.
And just both of you, eyes to me, straight down the lens. Lovely stuff.
There we go. Who do you think the one fighter that you're most looking forward to seeing box on DAZN is?
You know, I'm very interested in the future of Moses Itauma. I think everybody's talking about the young man's talent. You know, he's 20, which is probably the hardest thing, because where he is now is nowhere compared to where he's going to be in 4, 5, 6 years. But he's that good now. You also don't want to just keep him treading water. So it's a difficult one that I'm sure these guys will navigate. Love watching Nick Ball. You know, I'm really interested to see the Kakachi Wood fight.
Frank, Eddie's mentioned there about Moses Itauma. You've mentioned Alexander Usyk at certain points, obviously the heavyweight king at the minute. I was in the gym with Moses and Ben earlier on this week. I asked Ben Davison, you know, how far is he away from potentially challenging the top boys at heavyweight? He said he wouldn't put his house on him not beating Alexander Usyk if they were to fight next. Just your thoughts on that?
I agree with that, but it ain't going to happen next.
Of course. Yeah. In your role, Eddie's just mentioned it there, guiding those fighters and picking the right fights at the right time. When you've got a 20-year-old heavyweight who's blowing guys like Dempsey McKean out in a couple of rounds and Marius Mack in 2 or 3 rounds, how difficult is that to kind of to map that ahead? Because obviously, I'm assuming you're going to be having to pay some big money, Frank.
Well, it is. You know, it's not difficult because if he's blasting him out, it's easy. I mean, what you
more to get the guys in the other corner.
Look, that's all about money. It's making the right moves at the right time. And as I always, I mean, I bore everybody saying it, it's not a 100-metre race, it's a marathon. And it's about a career. He's just turned 20 a few months ago. I believe he could become the youngest ever British heavyweight champion.
Does this union on DAZN make Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua more likely to happen?
No, that's just on Tyson. Frank has to speak, not more respectfully, because we're very respectful towards him as well, but Frank's not going to go and phone Tyson Fury tonight and say, come on mate, one more. He's made his decision, we respect that. If he was to change his mind, he'd make a whole nation and a lot of people very happy. But until he does, there's no point talking about it. I mean, that's the biggest fight in world boxing. It's the biggest fight in the history of British boxing. But Tyson's, you know, got his life and his mind, and if he wants to pack it up, all respect to him. You know, like I said earlier, if he gets tired of picking up dog shit or whatever he's doing and just wakes up one day and goes, do you know what, let's do it, let's make history, then we're ready. And it would happen immediately. Would be the fastest conversation we've ever had. But you know, we give all respect to Tyson, and hopefully he changes his mind, but if not, we wish him all the best.
More or less likely than the Jake Paul fight for Anthony Joshua?
More. Yeah, much more. It'd be a slightly tougher fight though. But
yeah, I think so, probably. Yeah, just your response to that, really, Frank.
That's how it is. I have not had one conversation with Tyson about fighting on or coming back. He said what he said, and that's his decision. And he's spending time with his family. He's got some great projects on, which I know about. I can't reveal. That's up to him to reveal them at the right time. He's got some great projects there. he's a young man as far as boxing's concerned. He's not some old guy coming back, if he does come back. But that'll be his choice, or not his choice. You know, he's made his choice. It's whether he changes his mind, and I don't see that happening at this moment in time.
I was one of many people who are very disappointed not to see Daniel Dubois defend his IBF heavyweight title a few weeks ago in Saudi Arabia. What can you tell us with regards to Daniel, when he could be likely to be back in the ring?
Daniel obviously had an injury. The boxing board controlled doctor wouldn't pass him fit, so he couldn't fight. And he will fight sometime in June or July in a big fight here in the UK. And what would I like the fight to be? I'd like to see the 4 belts on the line. I'd like to see the revenge match with Usyk. Will it happen? I don't know. If it doesn't, then we've got quite a few things to consider and look at. If it doesn't happen, that means there's no unification. Joe Parker has been told, and Usyk's been ordered to fight him for the WBO title. So Usyk has a choice of 4 belts, unification, fight Joe Parker, or vacate the WBO title. That will be his choice. He may even retire, I don't know, but that will be his choice.
And Eddie, just final one with yourself. You touched upon it earlier, April 26th, Chris Eubank Jr versus Conor Benn. I think we've got a mag here with some egg splat all over there somewhere. You pulling a funny face. It's down there somewhere. There we go. Yeah, a huge fight for British boxing, and of course, just a few weeks away now, but you can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, you know, British boxing. I mean, there's another. I think it's just become like, since when is 90,000 or 65,000 at Spurs just something that happens all the time? We got lucky, didn't we, over a period, because Fury done it, AJ did it, and now it's great to see someone else doing it in Ben Eubank. You know, Eubank's antics are amusing, sometimes slightly annoying, but he's selling the fight at the same time as well, and Conor's training like a man possessed. I mean, he has a massive disadvantage with the size, and that's what makes it a 50-50 fight, because the way he's looking, like compared to Chris Eubank Jr, is a completely different fighter. But the size is a problem, and you know, Frank said earlier, normally a good big un beats a good little un, but I think it's a good little un against an average big un, if I'm honest. And from what I saw in the Liam Smith 1 fight, if Conor Benn lands the way he punches, and I think he'll knock him out.
How'd you see that one going, Frank?
How do I see it? As Eddie just said, you know, I look at it that way. You know, Big He's got to give weight away. He's got a lot of disadvantages. He's got a lot of drive, and he needs to win that fight. He wants to win that fight. I mean, they both do. He's 36 years of age, Eubank. He's no chicken. If Conor, if the weight is not a problem for Conor, then he can give him a big problem. What would I like to happen? I'd like to see Conor knock him the fuck out.
I think that's probably a good place to leave it. Thanks very much, guys.
Cheers.
Lovely. Cheers, mate. Nice one. Thanks, mate.
Oh, all good?
Yeah, I'd get your thing off here, but I don't want to go and touch you inappropriately,
Yeah,
Frank.
I know that. You behave yourself.
Really nice, you can do it to me.
I know you got them in the office.
Can you give me that original photograph?
Yeah, of course. No problem.
The nice ones.
I'll send it to you. I'll WhatsApp you later. All right.
When I arrive at Undisputed, I'm going to arrive like a king.
They're just keeping that money train going.
It's not over for Anthony.
Best is still to come.
Anthony Joshua lied to us.
How could you criticize AJ now? He's on the best run of his career.
This is a completely different fight.
There isn't anyone I know that's more dedicated to the sport than him.
You only give up when that competition within yourself dies.
Get ready for the return of Anthony